During the Second World War, the speed and surprise offensive into France by the German forces shocked the world. In only 6 weeks, the Wehrmacht and the Luftwaffe Blitzkrieg caused the collapse and surrender of the French army. One of the factors responsible for the victory can be the use of a rather disturbing performance-enhancing drug, Pervitin, otherwise known as methamphetamine. In today's video, we will cover the use of this drug in the Third Reich, uncover some of the truths and myths surrounding the drug, and some disturbing examples of its use. It is perhaps helpful to start with a situation in 1933. The National Socialists managed to take power and began their Third Reich. The prohibition of the use of recreational drugs was not something that was of primary concern for the Nazis. Many of the Weimar Republic's laws on drug use remained in place, and addicts were not targeted in the Nazis' racial hygiene and eugenic laws. However, this was not the case for those addicted to alcohol, who often ended up in concentration camps. This could be due to the Germans' attitudes to taking drugs being fairly liberal and the consequences of World War I. Many injured soldiers had developed addiction to painkillers, such as morphine, including leading Nazi and the head of the Luftwaffe, Hermann Göring. Generally speaking though, the Nazi attitude to drugs was that they were not needed by the Aryan race and were a Jewish ploy to weaken German resolve. Hitler pushed the notion of clean living, being a non-smoking, teetotal vegetarian, but he did enlist the service of a quack doctor by the name of Theodor Morell, who provided Hitler with a cocktail of all manner of narcotics. Morell managed to position himself to successfully treat Hitler for a stomach problem with a mix of probiotics and vitamins. Gaining Hitler's favor, he became part of the inner circle and became a successful businessman, selling his bizarre concoctions to the Nazi elite. Amongst the litany of drugs that Hitler took were cocaine and adrenaline eye drops, bovine testosterone, and amphetamines. German chemical and pharmaceutical companies such as Bayer continued their work on synthesizing new medicines and new drugs. This was nothing new, as German chemists and pharmaceutical companies had dominated during the 19th century and had discovered many new drugs and compounds. Inspired by the production of Benzedrine in the United States, German chemists developed their own Wachmine, meaning wake-up agents. Such drugs were used to treat conditions such as depression, apathy, and psychopathic syndromes. But the use of stimulants in other areas were also considered, namely for use in offices, factories, and on the battlefield. This drive led to the creation of Pervitin, a synthesized version of methamphetamine. This drug was made available to the German public in 1938 to even purchase over the counter and without a prescription. It soon became popular with many people, from factory workers during the night shift to office workers that needed an extra boost of confidence to deliver an important meeting, and of course to young people who were looking to party into the early hours. Early research carried out by the chemists concluded that Pervitin had a milder effect than Benzedrine but lasted longer. The general conclusion reached by the researchers was that Pervitin was able to increase productivity, increase a person's well-being, whilst also decreasing fatigue. People from all social spheres and classes engaged in taking the drug. Pervitin did have some notable side effects. It could cause hallucinations, seizures, and heart attacks, and it was known to be an addictive substance. One of the key researchers looking to use Pervitin in the military was Otto Friedrich Ranke. Ranke had been a member of the Stahlhelm Freikorps group before it had been incorporated into the SA in 1934. From 1937 until the end of the war, Ranke headed the Institute of General and Military Physiology in Berlin. He conducted research on 19 university students as to the effects of the drug. Ranke studied the effect of Pervitin when compared to a placebo, Benzedrine, and caffeine, issuing doses of each to 4 separate groups of students. These students were then made to perform a series of both physical and mental tests. Ranke found that the students given the Pervitin displayed far more stamina, but they made many more mistakes when faced with intellectual activities. Many researchers even self-administered the drug, leading to overwhelming positive reports on the effect of the drug as they felt euphoric. Ranke's findings stressed the importance of Pervitin on exhausted soldiers. However, the military rejected Ranke's goals of large-scale use of the drug. One key reason was that the desired effects of pervitin would largely depend on the state of mind of the user. The unique biological makeup and the psychological complex of a person gave varied results of pervitin. By 1939, pervitin was regulated and required a prescription to purchase. The side effects were becoming more and more well known, as too were the risks of addiction. In March of 1940, Leonardo Conti, the Reich's health leader, issued a warning as to not take pervitin too often. During the Second World War, some have argued that the drug was vital in the early Nazi victories. One historian has even said, quote, "The German Blitzkrieg was powered by amphetamines as much as it was powered by machine." Ranke would also receive updates from German soldiers in Poland as to the use of pervitin on the front lines. One unit reported that those who took pervitin were fresh, cheerful, and ready for battle, and all without accident. This despite accounts of some experiencing double vision. Between April and July of 1940, the Wehrmacht and the Luftwaffe purchased some 35 million tablets of pervitin, along with Isofan, a rival but similar drug. These pills would be issued to fighting soldiers in France, Belgium, Luxembourg, and the Netherlands. But the issuing of pervitin to soldiers would depend on the individual medical officers and their willingness to dish out the drug. German generals did issue strict orders that soldiers were not to sleep or rest for days at a time. This was in order to achieve the Blitzkrieg victories required. The Panzergruppe von Kleist was documented for its widespread use of pervitin to keep troops awake. It was this army group that broke through Ardennes and reached the sea, cutting off a large number of Belgian, French and British troops. The Allies were unable to understand